The gallery's pristine walls mocked me with their perfection. Each carefully hung piece of my siblings' artwork, a reminder of everything I hadn't achieved. I stood in the corner, clutching my wine glass like a shield, watching my mother fawn over Skylar's latest masterpiece. I'm Marley, and tonight was supposed to be my breakthrough moment. Instead, I was relegated to spectator at my siblings' third solo exhibition this year. The depth of emotion in this piece is extraordinary, my mother gushed to a cluster of art critics. Skylar has always had such natural talent. The wine turned bitter in my mouth. Natural talent. As if the last 15 years of my dedication to art meant nothing. My daughter Riley tugged at my sleeve, her 7-year-old face scrunched in confusion. "Mama, why does Grandma never talk about your paintings like that?" Before I could answer, my partner Chloe appeared, wrapping an arm around Riley's shoulders. "Hey, sweetie, I think I saw some fancy cookies by the entrance. Want to check them out?" I shot Chloe a grateful look as she led our daughter away. The crowd shifted, creating a pocket of space near one of Skylar's larger pieces, an abstract explosion of reds and golds that probably had some profound meaning I was supposed to understand. "It's derivative," a familiar voice muttered beside me. My friend Everly materialized, wearing a black dress that screamed rebellion against the gallery's understated dress code. "Seriously, I've seen better composition in a kindergarten finger painting class." "Keep your voice down," I whispered, though her words soothed my bruised ego. "The last thing I need is—" "Did you see the write-up in Art Weekly?" My brother-in-law Jason's voice carried from behind a nearby sculpture. I froze, recognizing my mother's responding murmur. "Yes, they're calling Skylar the voice of our generation," my mother said. "Such a relief after. Well, you know how worried we were when both our children wanted to pursue art. Thank goodness one of them had the talent to succeed." The wine glass trembled in my hand. Everly grabbed my arm, but I shook her off, moving closer to hear more. "Marley's still doing those little cafe shows, right?" Jason asked. "At least she has Chloe to support her. Not everyone's cut out for real success in this world." Something hot and ugly unfurled in my chest. I stepped around the sculpture, ready to confront them, when my heel caught on something. A cream-colored envelope lay half-hidden under the installation's base. I snatched it up, my name written across the front in familiar handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper, an email printout dated 3 years ago, when I'd been shortlisted for the Carlton Prize. "Regarding your inquiry about Marley's submission," the email read, "You're right, her technical skills are questionable. Thank you for bringing these concerns to our attention. We'll be removing her from consideration." The signature belonged to the prize committee chair, but the email was addressed to my sibling. My hand shook as I read it again. 3 years ago, that prize could have launched my career. Instead, I'd received a form rejection letter, leading to months of self-doubt that nearly made me quit painting altogether. "Marley," Skylar's voice cut through my thoughts. My sibling stood before me, champagne glass raised in false celebration. "You look pale. Not feeling well?" I met Skylar's eyes, seeing for the first time the calculation behind the concern. How many other opportunities had been quietly sabotaged? How many doors closed before I could even reach them? "I'm fine," I said, folding the paper carefully and slipping it into my pocket. "Just admiring your work. It must be nice, having everything come so naturally." Skylar's smile flickered for just a moment, enough to confirm what I now knew. This wasn't just about talent or success. This was about systematic destruction, wrapped in family loyalty and tied with ribbons of concern. Well, two could play at that game, and I had nothing left to lose. The email burned in my pocket throughout the mandatory family dinner the following evening. My mother had insisted we all gather to celebrate Skylar's success, as if the gallery opening hadn't been enough. I pushed my food around the plate while my mother detailed every compliment the critics had given my siblings' work. Chloe's empty chair beside me felt like an accusation. Another late night at the office with Jeremiah. "And the way you captured the interplay of light and shadow," my mother continued. "It reminds me of that phase Marley went through in college. Remember those dark, moody pieces? They weren't a phase, I said, gripping my fork tighter. That's still my style. Oh, my mother's dismissal came wrapped in a delicate sip of wine. I thought you'd moved past that. Riley, coloring beside me at the table, looked up from her drawing. I like Mama's dark pictures. They make me feel things. That's sweet, dear, my mother said. But you should see what your Aunt Schuyler painted at your age. Pure talent, even then. My father cleared his throat. The pot roast is excellent, Olivia. Speaking of talent, Jason cut in. Schuyler, tell them about the commission you just landed. The one for the new medical center. The fork bent slightly in my hand. That commission was supposed to be confidential. I'd applied for it last month. Oh, it's nothing special, my sibling said with practiced modesty. Just a series of pieces for their pediatric wing. Nothing special, my mother beamed. It's the largest commission in the city this year. I stood abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. Riley, time to pack up your crayons. But Mama, I want to show everyone my drawing of Aunt Schuyler's painting. Show them, sweetheart, Schuyler encouraged. I'd love to see your interpretation. Riley held up her paper proudly. See? It's the big red one from the gallery. And look what I found hidden in it. My breath caught as Riley pointed to a series of marks in her drawing. Similar marks I'd seen in Schuyler's actual painting, but hadn't paid attention to before. What do you mean, hidden? I asked carefully. The little numbers. They're tucked into all the swirly parts, like a secret code. I counted 7 of them. Schuyler's champagne glass clattered against the table. Such an active imagination, my sibling said quickly. Kids see patterns everywhere. But I'd seen the flash of panic in Schuyler's eyes. Those numbers meant something. My phone buzzed. A text from Chloe. Sorry, Jeremiah needs me to stay late again. Don't wait up. Everything okay? My father asked. Thinking my expression. Perfect, I lied, helping Riley gather her art supplies. We need to get home. School night. But you've barely touched your food, my mother protested. And Schuyler was going to share some exciting news about. I'm sure I'll hear all about Schuyler's latest triumph eventually. The bitterness slipped out before I could stop it. It's not like anyone in this family talks about anything else. Silence fell over the table. My father studied his plate while Jason wrapped a protective arm around Schuyler's shoulders. Marley. My mother's voice carried that familiar note of disappointment. There's no need for jealousy. Everyone finds their level eventually. Right. I grabbed my coat, helping Riley into hers. And I suppose Schuyler found theirs by sabotaging everyone else's chances. What are you implying? Schuyler stood, facade cracking slightly. Nothing. Yet. I met my sibling's gaze. But maybe we should talk about the Carlton Prize sometime. Or those mysterious numbers Riley noticed in your painting. Mama, Riley tugged at my sleeve. Why is everyone mad? We're not mad, sweetie, Schuyler said, voice honey sweet. Your mother's just tired. Making art can be so draining when it doesn't come naturally. I guided Riley toward the door, pausing only to say, you know what else is draining? Maintaining lies. But don't worry, sibling dear. I'm about to make things much easier for you. As we left, I heard my mother asking Schuyler what I'd meant about the Carlton Prize, but I was already plotting my next move. Those numbers in the painting weren't random. They were dates, and I had a feeling they'd lead me to every opportunity Schuyler had stolen from me. 7 dates, Everly said, spreading printouts across my studio floor. 7 rejections. 7 opportunities that went to Schuyler instead of you. The morning light caught dust motes dancing around my easel, where a half-finished canvas waited. I hadn't touched it since discovering the email. Look at this one. Everly pointed to a grant rejection from last spring. The timing matches the 3rd number Riley found in the painting. And guess who was on the selection committee? Let me guess. Someone Schuyler knows. Better, someone our mother knows. Everly's dark eyes flashed. The committee chair plays tennis with her every Sunday. I pressed my palms against my temples. That doesn't prove anything. No? Then explain this. She held up her phone, showing a social media post from 2 years ago. My mother? the committee chair, and Skylar at some charity event. The date matched another rejection letter. My phone buzzed. Chloe. Working late again. Jeremiah needs the quarterly reports tonight. Still no Chloe? Everly asked, noting my expression. She's barely been home this week. I tossed the phone aside. Jeremiah's got her working impossible hours. Convenient timing, don't you think? Right when you're closest to exposing. A knock at the studio door cut her off. My childhood friend Marcus stood there looking uncomfortable. Sorry to interrupt, he said. Door was open downstairs. Marcus. I hadn't seen him in months. What are you doing here? He shifted, not quite meeting my eyes. Heard about the gallery opening and the dinner after. Thought you might need a friend. How did you hear about the dinner? Everly asked sharply. I ran into Skylar yesterday. The air seemed to thicken. You saw my sibling? At the art supplies store. Marcus stepped inside, closing the door. Look, they're worried about you, Marley. Said you've been making accusations. They sent you to spy on me. Bapaying. The betrayal tasted metallic. No, I mean, they mentioned you seemed unstable lately. Unstable. I grabbed one of the rejection letters. Is that what they call discovering years of sabotage? They said you might say something like that. Marcus glanced at the papers scattered across the floor. Come on, Marley. You really think Skylar orchestrated some grand conspiracy? Maybe you're just... If you say jealous, I swear I'll throw you out myself, Everly interrupted. I was going to say struggling. Marcus held up his hands. It's okay to admit when you need help. Skylar mentioned they know a great therapist. Get out. My voice shook. And tell my sibling that if they want to check on me, they can do it themselves instead of sending flying monkeys. After Marcus left, Everly helped me gather the evidence we'd collected. You realize what this means, right? Skylar's scared. They're trying to discredit you before you can expose them, by making me look paranoid. I stared at the numbers Riley had copied from the painting. But they made a mistake hiding these dates in their work. Pride or something else. Speaking of pride, Everly pulled up another social media post. Look who just announced their upcoming solo show at the Hamilton Gallery. My stomach dropped. The Hamilton Gallery had been my dream venue since art school. I'd submitted portfolios every year for a decade. 3 weeks from now, I read aloud. With special guest speaker, Jeremiah Walsh, Chloe's boss, Everly frowned. That can't be coincidence. My phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. Your sibling isn't who you think they are. Meet me at Andrew's studio tomorrow morning if you want proof. Marcus? Everly asked, reading over my shoulder. No, I said slowly. I think it's from my old mentor, but why now? Could be a trap. Or it could be the evidence we need. I looked at my half-finished canvas, then at the dates that marked each stolen opportunity. Either way, I'm done letting Skylar write my story. What are you going to do? I picked up a brush, finally ready to paint again. I'm going to turn their own technique against them. If Skylar can hide messages in their art, so can I. And my exhibition is going to tell the truth about every single one of those 7 dates. Marley? Everly's voice held a warning. Be careful. You're playing with fire. Good, I said, making the first bold stroke across the canvas. It's about time someone got burned. Andrew's studio smelled of turpentine and stale coffee, just as it had during my student days. My old mentor hunched over his workbench, looking smaller than I remembered. I wondered when you'd finally figure it out, he said without turning around. Took you long enough. You knew. The betrayal felt like acid in my throat. All this time you knew what Skylar was doing? Knew? He laughed, a hollow sound. Kid, I was part of it. He pushed a folder across the workbench. Inside were emails, dozens of them, spanning years. My hands shook as I read exchanges between Andrew, Skylar, and various gallery owners, competition judges, grant committees. Why? I managed to ask. Your sibling made me an offer, said they'd fund my retirement, get my work into major collections. He finally turned to face me. I was tired of being the forgotten genius, watching younger artists pass me by. So you helped destroy my career instead. I wrote the recommendations they needed, made the right calls. It wasn't personal. Wasn't personal? I slammed the folder down. You were like a father to me. And look how well that turned out for your real father. Andrew's words hit like a slap. Francis always favored you, didn't he? Maybe Skylar deserved their turn. And my phone buzzed. Chloe again. I ignored it. There's more, Andrew said. About your partner's boss, Jeremiah. He's not just keeping Chloe busy with work. What do you mean? They're planning something. The Hamilton Gallery show isn't just about Skylar's art. He pulled out another document. Look at the investor list. Jeremiah's name was there, along with several shell companies I didn't recognize. But one name made my blood freeze. Chloe's. She's been investing in Skylar's work for months, Andrew said, through Jeremiah's art investment firm. The studio door creaked. I spun around to find Chloe standing there, her face pale. I can explain, she said. How long? My voice sounded distant, even to myself. How long have you been working with them? It's not what you think. Chloe stepped closer. Jeremiah showed me the numbers. Skylar's work is appreciating faster than any other artist in the region. I was trying to secure our future, build something for Riley. By backing the person who's been systematically destroying my career? I didn't know about that part, not until recently. She reached for me, but I stepped back. When I found out, I started gathering evidence. That's why I've been working late. I was trying to protect you. Protect me? I gestured at Andrew's folder. By secretly investing in my sibling's success while I struggled. By watching me doubt myself year after year. There's still time to fix this, Andrew interrupted. The Hamilton show. If certain things came to light, if the right people started asking questions, you want to help now? I laughed bitterly. After years of sabotage, I want to make things right. He pulled out a USB drive. Everything's here, the emails, the doctored recommendations, the financial records, including Jeremiah's less-than-legal art investment schemes. My phone buzzed again. A text from Everly. Where are you? Skylar's here at your studio with your mother. They're going through your new work. I have to go. I grabbed the USB drive and folder. My siblings about to get a preview of their own exposure. Marley, wait! Chloe called after me. You don't understand what they're capable of. No, I turned back one last time. You don't understand what I'm capable of. And neither does Skylar. I left them both there, my mentor and my partner. 2 more betrayals to add to the growing list. But their duplicity had given me something valuable. Proof. Now I just had to reach my studio before Skylar destroyed the paintings that would reveal everything. As I drove, my phone kept buzzing. Messages from my mother, from Skylar, from Chloe. I ignored them all. Let them worry. Let them wonder what I would do next. They'd all underestimated me for years. Time to show them exactly what that mistake would cost them. I burst into my studio to find Skylar holding one of my new canvases, the one with the hidden dates woven into abstract shadows. My mother stood nearby, frowning at the dark imagery. These are different, my mother said, more angry than usual. Put it down. My voice came out steadier than I felt. I'm trying to understand, Skylar said, not releasing the canvas. What exactly are you hoping to accomplish with these? Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing about sabotaging my career. I pulled out Andrew's folder. Want to explain these emails? Or should we start with Jeremiah's investment scheme? My mother stepped forward. What are you talking about? Show her, Everly said from the doorway. Show them both. I spread the documents across my workbench. Emails, recommendations, financial records, a paper trail of betrayal. My mother's face paled as she read. This can't be right, she whispered. Can't it? I pointed to specific dates. Every rejection, every missed opportunity, all orchestrated by your perfect child. You're misinterpreting things, Skylar said, but their hands trembled slightly. These were business decisions, nothing more. Business? I laughed. Like having Andrew tank my recommendations. Like having Chloe invest in your work behind my back. My mother's head snapped up. Chloe's involved. Everyone's involved, Mother. Everyone except you and Dad, though I'm sure you'll find a way to justify it all. That's enough. Skylar set down the canvas. You're spinning conspiracy theories because you can't accept that I'm not as talented as you. I grabbed my phone, pulling up photos of Skylar's painting. Explain the numbers then. The dates hidden in your masterpiece. Quite a coincidence they match every major setback in my career. Silence fell. My mother looked between us, her carefully maintained worldview cracking. I did what I had to do, Skylar finally said. You were always Dad's favorite, always the special one. Even when you failed, he believed in you more than me. So you destroyed my career to punish Dad. I earned my success. Skylar's composure shattered. Every sabotaged application, every manipulated judgment, it proved I could beat you on any playing field. Even with your raw talent, I won. My mother sank into a chair. How could you? How could I? Skylar whirled on her. You taught me. Always pushing, always comparing. Why can't you paint like your sibling? Why aren't you as creative? Until I found a way to win your approval instead. By cheating, I said quietly. By stealing opportunities from others. How many artists did you destroy besides me? A new voice answered from the door. Too many. My father stood there holding a manila envelope. I've suspected for years but couldn't prove it. Until now, then. Dad? Skylar's voice wavered. What do you mean? I've been gathering evidence, he said. Working with gallery owners, other artists, building a case. He handed me the envelope. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, Marley. I wanted proof first. Inside were more documents, a pattern of manipulation stretching beyond just my career. Dozens of artists, countless competitions, all corrupted by Skylar's schemes. The Hamilton Gallery show, my father continued. It's built on fraud, and now we can prove it. You can't do this, Skylar whispered. My reputation, your reputation. My mother stood. You destroyed lives, used our connections, our trust. I did it for you, Skylar shouted. Everything I did was to be worthy of what? I asked. Their love? Their pride? Look what it cost you. Look what it cost everyone. My phone buzzed. Chloe again. But another message caught my eye. An email from Howard, the gallery owner I'd always seen as a rival. Subject line: let's talk about your siblings' show. I looked at my family, my shattered mother, my quietly determined father, my desperate sibling, and made a decision. The Hamilton show opens in 2 weeks, I said. Just enough time to prepare my own exhibition, one that tells the real story. Marley, my father warned, be careful, revenge can... This isn't about revenge anymore. I picked up my paint-stained brush. It's about justice, for everyone they've hurt. I met Skylar's eyes. You taught me how to hide messages in art. Time to show you what else I've learned. Howard's gallery felt different at night, the empty halls amplifying every footstep. He studied my proposal under the harsh track lighting, his expression unreadable. A counter-exhibition, he said finally, opening the same night as your siblings' show. With proof of every manipulation, every stolen opportunity. I spread the evidence across his desk. Not just mine, everyone's. Bold move. He tapped the documents. Also, career suicide if you're wrong. I'm not wrong. No, he agreed. You're not, but there's something you don't know. My phone buzzed. Marcus again. I'd been ignoring his calls since our confrontation at Andrew's studio. Jeremiah isn't just Chloe's boss, Howard continued. He's been buying up smaller galleries. Bob's bought galleries, including mine. By next way, he'll own controlling interest in half the exhibition spaces in the city. The implications hit hard. He's working with Skylar. Smart girl. Why do you think your siblings' show is happening here? My carefully constructed plan crumbled. Without a venue, without a platform. There's more, Howard said. Check your email. A message from the Art Board's Ethics Committee appeared on my phone. My hands shook as I read, investigation into allegations of plagiarism and fraud against me. Skylar filed the complaint this morning with evidence. What evidence? I've never... They're using your own technique against you. Those hidden messages in your recent work, they're claiming you stole the idea from them, and they have backdated proof. A knock interrupted us. Marcus stood in the doorway, looking grim. You should have answered my calls, he said. Chloe's gone. What do you mean, gone? She took Riley to your mother's, said something about protecting her from what's coming. The room tilted slightly. My daughter is safe, Marcus said, but Chloe's working with Jeremiah now, officially. Howard pushed a document across his desk. The Hamilton show isn't just an exhibition. It's the launch of a new art investment fund. Your partner is listed as managing director. They're not just trying to stop you, Marcus added. They're trying to erase you. My phone buzzed again. Everly this time. 911. Someone broke into your studio. All your new work. Marley, it's gone. The floors seemed to drop away. Months of work. All my evidence woven into paintings. There's still a way, Marcus said quietly. Remember what we discussed about making sure Skylar never recovers? What's he talking about? Howard asked. He has proof of tax fraud, I said. Enough to send Skylar to prison. Along with Jeremiah and half the art scene, Marcus added. One anonymous tip, Howard studied me. That would destroy more than careers, families, lives, including your daughter's family name. But Skylar would finally pay, Marcus pressed. Isn't that what you wanted? I thought of Riley, of Chloe, of my mother's broken expression when she learned the truth, of my father's quiet gathering of evidence, choosing justice over vengeance. No, I said, not like this. Then what's your play? Howard asked. They have everything. The venues, the narrative, your partner, your work. Not everything. I pulled out my phone, dialing a number I'd memorized years ago. They don't have the truth. Who are you calling? The one person who can still reach Skylar. The one person who started all this with their constant comparisons and pressure. My mother answered on the first ring. Marley, Riley's asking for you. Mom, I cut her off. I need your help. And this time you have to choose a side. Silence stretched between us. Then, what do you need? Your confession. About how your favoritism drove Skylar to this. About everything you saw but ignored. Will you do it? Another pause. Yes, she said finally. It's time. I looked at Howard. Still have that contact at the Arts Journal? He nodded slowly, understanding dawning. A mother's confession would be compelling. More than compelling, Marcus said. It would be devastating. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Skylar. Last chance to back down. Don't make me destroy everything you have left. I typed back 3 words. Too late, sibling. The game wasn't over. It was just changing rules. The Hamilton Gallery hummed with opening night energy. Skylar's exhibition foiled the main space, while my hastily arranged response show occupied the smaller side gallery, a compromise Howard had negotiated at the last minute. I stood before my centerpiece, a triptych of dark canvases, each hiding dates and documents beneath layers of paint that would become visible under the right light. They're here, Everly whispered, appearing at my side, all of them. Through the gathering crowd I spotted them. Jeremiah leading a group of investors, Chloe at his side looking uncomfortable, my mother near the entrance, clutching her prepared statement, Andrew hovering uncertainly between the 2 galleries, and finally, Skylar, moving through their admirers with practiced grace. Ready? Howard asked, finger hovering over the lighting controls. I nodded, and the gallery lights dimmed. UV lights activated, revealing the hidden elements in my paintings. Every piece of evidence, every manipulated competition, every stolen opportunity glowing in phosphorescent paint. Gasps rippled through the crowd as they realized what they were seeing. Skylar froze mid-conversation, face draining of color. Ladies and gentlemen, Howard announced, welcome to Truth in Shadow, a special exhibition about artistic integrity. My mother stepped forward, hands shaking as she unfolded her statement. But before she could speak, Jeremiah cut through the crowd. This is a publicity stunt, he announced. Ms. Marley here is under investigation for plagiarism. Actually, my father's voice rang out as he emerged from the crowd. The investigation has been dropped. The ethics committee received some very interesting evidence this morning. Chloe broke away from Jeremiah's side, moving toward me. Marley, I can explain. Not now, I said quietly. Watch. The central canvas began to shift under the UV light, revealing a hidden image, Skylar's signature technique, dated years before they claimed to have invented it. Proof they had stolen it from one of the artists they'd destroyed. That's impossible, Skylar breathed. Is it? I turned to face my sibling, like it was impossible for you to manipulate Andrew, to use Jeremiah's money to buy control of galleries, to convince Chloe that betraying me was for our daughter's good. I did what I had to do, Skylar snapped. You have no idea what it's like living in your shadow. My shadow, I laughed. While you were stealing opportunities, buying success, I was fighting for every scrap of recognition. The shadow was yours, built on lies and manipulation. Enough. Jeremiah moved to intervene, but Howard stepped forward. I wouldn't, he said. The Arts Journal livestream has been running since the doors opened. Everything's being broadcast. The crowd parted as my mother approached Skylar. I did this, she said, voice breaking. My favoritism, my pressure. I turned you into this. Mother, don't. The truth, Skylar. For once, something cracked in my siblings' carefully maintained facade. I just wanted to make you proud, they whispered. By destroying others, my father joined us. By hurting your own family. Family? Skylar gestured at the revealing paintings. Look what Marley's doing right now. I'm showing the truth, I said. Something you taught me, remember? Hidden messages in art? A small voice cut through the tension. Mama? Riley stood in the gallery entrance, having slipped away from our neighbor, Amy's supervision. She looked at the glowing paintings, then at her other mother. Chloe, I said softly. Take her home. No, Skylar interrupted. Let her stay. Let her see what her mother's revenge looks like. This isn't revenge, I said, meeting my siblings' eyes. It's justice. For every artist you destroyed, every dream you stole. The truth doesn't destroy people, Skylar. Lies do. The gallery erupted in camera flashes as reporters pushed forward, questions overlapping. But above the chaos, I heard Howard's quiet words. Check your phone. A message waited from an unknown number. Your work speaks truth to power. When you're ready to show it properly, the Venice Biennale has an opening. I looked up to find Skylar staring at me, their carefully constructed world crumbling around them. But in their eyes, beneath the anger and fear, I saw something else. Relief. The truth, finally exposed, had set us both free. The Venice sun painted my new studio in shades of gold as I added the final touches to my latest piece. A knock at the door made me pause, brush hovering over canvas. Still hiding in here? Everly asked, stepping inside. The water taxi's waiting. Riley's already bouncing with excitement about the opening. I studied my work. No hidden messages this time, just raw truth on canvas. Is everyone here? Your parents arrived this morning. Andrew's been pacing the gallery since dawn. Even Howard flew in from New York. She hesitated. And Skylar sent something. My hand tightened on the brush. What? A letter, and one of their early pieces. From before, everything. The painting sat wrapped in brown paper, propped against the wall. Beneath it lay a sealed envelope. Have you heard from Chloe? I asked, cleaning my brush. She's doing well in her new gallery. Riley loves visiting her there on weekends. Everly touched my shoulder. You made the right choice, letting her go. I know. And I did. Some betrayals couldn't be undone, but they could be forgiven. For Riley's sake, if nothing else. The letter felt heavy in my hands as I opened it. Dear Marley, I spent years trying to escape your shadow, only to cast a darker one. The truth you exposed didn't destroy me. It freed me. I'm starting over, teaching art to children. They see beauty without competition. Creation without corruption. Maybe that's something I needed to learn. Skylar. I unwrapped the painting, a small piece from our college days, before ambition and jealousy poisoned everything. Two figures, faces turned toward a bright horizon. We should go, Everly said softly. They're waiting. The gallery buzzed with anticipation. My mother stood with my father near the entrance, her therapy-strengthened smile genuine as she hugged me. Andrew hovered nearby, his redemption found in mentoring young artists, warning them about the industry's darker sides. "Ready?" Howard asked, appearing at my elbow. I nodded, and he signaled the staff. The lights dimmed, but this time there were no hidden revelations, no accusations glowing in the dark. Instead, each canvas told a story of recovery, of truth's aftermath, of shadows transformed into light. "Mama, look!" Riley tugged my hand, pointing to a small painting near the end. "Is that me?" The piece showed a child's hands holding broken pieces of a mirror, each shard reflecting something different: family, art, truth, forgiveness. I'd painted it the day Chloe and I signed our divorce papers. "You inspired it," I told her. "You showed me how to see clearly." Speaking of seeing clearly, my father approached, holding another envelope. "This came for you, and inside was a single sheet of paper, a list of names, and contact information. Artists Skylar had sabotaged over the years. Each one now offered a chance at redemption through Howard's new foundation. "Your sibling provided the list," my father said, "and the funding." "And Jeremiah, facing charges for investment fraud. Turns out your exposure inspired quite a few whistleblowers." The gallery filled with critics, collectors, and artists. Some familiar, some new. No hidden agendas, no secret competitions, just art, honest and raw. My mother touched my arm. "I've been thinking about shadows lately," she said. "How we cast them without realizing, how they distort everything they touch. I'm sorry I couldn't see clearly before." "We all cast shadows," I replied. "The trick is learning to paint with them." Later, as the evening wound down, I found Skylar's painting again. Those two figures, facing the horizon, not running from shadows, but walking toward light. A new message appeared on my phone. "Some truths take time to understand. Thank you for showing me mine. S." I looked around the gallery, at my daughters sketching in a corner, my parents talking with Howard, Everly arranging my next showing. The shadows were still there, but they didn't dominate anymore. They were just another color on the palette. Another layer of depth in the greater picture. I picked up my brush again. There were more stories to tell, more truths to paint, but this time I'd create them in full light, letting the shadows fall where they may.
I'm Megan Foster, 42 years old. As usual, I was bustling around our home in a quiet suburban neighborhood outside Boston, busy with my morning preparations. While getting breakfast ready in the kitchen, I called up to the second floor. "Ashley, are you up? I always worry about my 15-year-old daughter oversleeping." My husband Daniel came down the stairs and greeted me with a smile. "Good morning, Meg." He works as a sales manager at Karcher North America, a major cleaning equipment manufacturer. He always seems busy with sales for new products. "Early start today?" I asked, to which Daniel replied, "Yes, I've got a presentation on a new product." "I'm a bit nervous." I patted his shoulder lightly and encouraged him, "You'll do great. I'm sure it'll go well." Finally, Ashley came down, and the three of us had breakfast together. "Mom, can I go to the mall with my friends after school today?" Ashley asked. I thought for a moment before asking back, "Is your homework done?" She answered confidently, "Of course. I finished it all yesterday." "All right then, you can go. But be back by 8 p.m., I gave permission, and Ashley exclaimed happily, "Thank you." After breakfast, we each headed off to our daily routines. I spend my days as an English teacher at Quincy High School. I love teaching and find great joy in watching my students grow. That evening, when Daniel returned home, he looked a bit troubled. "What's wrong?" I asked, and after a moment's hesitation, he began to speak. "Well, it seems Rachel has lost her job." Rachel is Daniel's 35-year-old sister-in-law. The moment I heard her name, a wave of anxiety washed over me. All the troubles she had caused in the past flashed through my mind like a montage. Daniel continued, "She's asking if she can stay with us temporarily. Do you think it'll be okay?" I chose my words carefully as I answered, "Well, do you remember what happened the last time she stayed with us?" Back then. Daniel interrupted me, saying, I know. But I think this time will be different. She seems to have learned her lesson." I let out a deep sigh. Daniel's kindness is both his strength and sometimes his weakness. "All right. But if anything happens, it'll be fine, Meg. I'm sure things will work out this time," Daniel said confidently. That night, I couldn't sleep. I was worried that Rachel's arrival might disrupt our peaceful daily life. Looking out the window, I saw stars twinkling in the quiet night sky. I finally closed my eyes, praying that this tranquility would last for a long time. Rachel arrived at our house on a rainy Saturday afternoon. The doorbell rang, and Daniel rushed to greet her. I watched from the living room, feeling a bit tense. "Hey, Rachel. It's been a while," Daniel's cheerful voice could be heard. Rachel's slightly reserved voice replied, "Thank you for having me, Daniel." As they entered the living room, I stood up to greet her. "Welcome, Rachel." Rachel looked a bit thinner and tired. "Thank you, Megan. I'm sorry for the trouble," she said. Her words sounded sincere, but the caution in my heart didn't completely disappear. Ashley came running down the stairs, exclaiming, "Aunt Rachel." They were happy to see each other after a long time and immediately started chatting comfortably. During dinner that evening, Rachel told us about her job loss. The company's financial situation worsened, and there was a large-scale layoff. It was so sudden. Her voice trailed off. Daniel gently said, "It's okay, Rachel. You can look for a new job while you're here. There's no need to rush." I agreed, but internally, I had mixed feelings. A worry crossed my mind that Rachel's stay might be prolonged. As a few days passed, I began to notice that Rachel's presence was gradually influencing our family's daily life. What particularly concerned me was how quickly she was becoming close to Ashley. One evening, while I was preparing dinner in the kitchen, I could hear Ashley and Rachel's cheerful laughter from the living room. Listening closely, I heard Rachel saying, "Yes, and then in high school, this happened." I found myself unconsciously straining to hear. Rachel's high school stories shouldn't be very good memories. I clearly remember her causing problems back then. "Mom, what are you doing?" Ashley's sudden voice startled me back to reality. "Oh, I was just lost in thought," I answered, feeling a bit embarrassed about my behavior. During dinner, Rachel began asking Daniel about his work. "Daniel, how's the new product development at Karcher?" I'm really curious. Daniel looked a bit uncomfortable but answered, "Well, we have some new things coming out, but I can't say much. It's company confidential, you know." Rachel persisted, "I see. But what's the general direction? Environmentally friendly products, perhaps?" Feeling a bit awkward, I tried to change the subject. "By the way, Rachel, how's your job search going?" She frowned slightly and replied, "Well, I'm trying. But it's not easy to find something." That night, I spoke to Daniel in our bedroom. Rachel seems to have gotten quite close to Ashley lately. Daniel looked up from his book and said, "Yes, I think it's good stimulation for Ashley." I hesitated but continued, "But I'm a bit worried. Considering Rachel's past." Daniel frowned slightly and said, "Meg, let's let bygones be bygones. I think Rachel has changed." I fell silent. I didn't want to disrupt the family harmony. But internally, I was still worried. Looking out the window, I saw moonlight quietly illuminating the garden. How long would this peaceful daily life continue? With these thoughts, I closed my eyes. It was Friday evening, and I had just returned from school. While preparing dinner in the kitchen, I was reflecting on today's class. It was impressive to see the students discussing Romeo and Juliet. "I'm home," Ashley's voice called out, and I turned around with a smile to say, "Welcome back." However, that smile quickly faded. Ashley didn't look well. "Ashley, are you okay?" I asked, and she weakly replied, "I'm feeling a bit sick." I immediately rushed to Ashley's side and put my hand on her forehead. There was no fever, but she clearly looked unwell. "How do you feel?" I asked, and Ashley began to say, "My stomach hurts, and I feel nauseous." When suddenly her face changed color. The next moment, she rushed to the bathroom and began vomiting violently. I watched anxiously, rubbing her back. "Rachel," I called out. "She should be upstairs." But there was no response. After a while, Ashley's condition worsened. Her stomach pain intensified, and she began to break out in a cold sweat. I tried to stay calm despite my panic. "Daniel, come home quickly," I prayed in my heart as I called my husband. "Ashley's in trouble. Come home right away." Before I could hear Daniel's response, I heard Ashley's cry of pain. This is not normal. Without hesitation, I dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? My daughter suddenly started having stomach pain and vomiting, and it's getting worse. I understand. We'll dispatch an ambulance right away. Can you give me your address? I gave the address in a trembling voice. The operator calmly instructed me on what to do, but my mind was blank. A few minutes later, I heard the sound of sirens approaching. I opened the front door and let the paramedics in. They immediately began checking Ashley's condition. "We'll transport her to Massachusetts General Hospital," the paramedics said. I nodded, clutching Ashley's hand tightly. "Mom, I'm scared," Ashley said weakly. "It's okay, I'm here with you," I desperately encouraged her. Just before getting into the ambulance, Rachel came down the stairs. "What happened?" she asked, looking surprised. "Ashley suddenly got sick. We're going to the hospital," I answered briefly. "I'll come too," Rachel started to say, but I shook my head. "No, stay here. Explain the situation to Daniel when he gets back." In the ambulance, I held Ashley's hand tightly, watching the journey to the hospital. Amidst the blaring sirens, my head was filled with anxiety and fear. Upon arrival at the hospital, Ashley was immediately taken to the treatment room. I waited in the waiting room, feeling overwhelmed with worry. After a while, Daniel rushed in, out of breath. "Meg, how's Ashley's condition?" "We don't know yet. The doctor is examining her now." We clung to each other, waiting for the doctor's report. Time seemed to stretch on forever. Finally, the doctor appeared and approached us. His expression was serious, and my heart began to race. "Mr. and Mrs. Foster, your daughter's condition is critical," the doctor said. "She's showing symptoms of acute poisoning. We haven't identified the cause yet, but it's likely she was exposed to some kind of toxin." Daniel and I were speechless. Poison. How could Ashley have come into contact with such a thing? "We've started detoxification treatment. The next 24 hours will be crucial," the doctor continued. We nodded at the doctor's words, but our minds were in chaos. When we were led to Ashley's room, we saw our daughter surrounded by various medical equipment. I couldn't help but burst into tears. "How could this happen?" Daniel muttered. At that moment, I suddenly realized something. "Rachel hasn't come yet." Daniel looked a bit surprised and said, "Oh, right. I should call her." While he was calling Rachel, I sat by Ashley's bedside, holding her hand. "Hang in there, Ashley. Mom and Dad are here with you." Daniel came back with a slightly confused expression. "Rachel says she has something to do. She can't come today." I frowned. What kind of errand could be more important than her niece's life being in danger? As the night wore on, we didn't leave Ashley's side. Nurses came regularly to check on her, offering words of encouragement. However, the anxiety in my heart wouldn't disappear. Looking out the window, I could see the Boston night skyline. A view that would normally be beautiful didn't touch my heart at all. I just continued to pray for Ashley's recovery. As dawn broke and a new day began, Ashley's condition continued to fluctuate. Doctors and nurses were monitoring her around the clock, but without knowing the cause, they couldn't provide fundamental treatment. Daniel and I took turns taking short naps, never leaving Ashley's side. With fatigue and anxiety, our sense of time became increasingly blurred. In the afternoon, there was a knock on the hospital room door. Two unfamiliar men entered the room. "Mr. and Mrs. Foster?" one of them asked. When we nodded, they showed their identification. "We're from the hospital's security department. Could we have a word with you?" With a mix of anxiety and curiosity, we followed them. They led us to a room in the hospital. Actually, "We noticed something concerning in last night's surveillance camera footage," one of the security staff said. "It's footage from the parking lot when your daughter was brought in." They pointed to a monitor. It showed footage of the nighttime parking lot. We could see the ambulance arriving and Ashley being brought in. And then, "Is that?" I almost cried out. A familiar figure could be seen near the ambulance. "Rachel?" Daniel said in a surprised voice. Indeed, the figure looked like Rachel. She seemed to be wandering around the ambulance. "What is this?" I started to say when the room's door opened, and two police officers entered. Mr. and Mrs. Foster were Detectives Johnson and Parker. One of them introduced themselves. "We have a few things we'd like to confirm regarding your daughter's case." We nodded, but our minds were in turmoil. Was the situation serious enough to involve the police? "Actually, we received a tip," Detective Johnson said. "There might be important information about the cause of your daughter's poisoning symptoms." Detective Parker continued, "There's some evidence in the next room." "Mrs. Foster, I'm sorry, but could you take a peek discreetly?" Bewildered, I followed the instructions. I approached the door and cautiously peeked inside. What I saw took my breath away. In the center of the room was a large monitor, showing Rachel. It clearly showed her approaching the ambulance with something in the parking lot. Various photos and documents were pinned to the wall. Upon closer inspection, they were photos of toxins reportedly found in Rachel's car and records of Snapchat exchanges between her and Ashley. In my mind, various memories raced through like a montage. The events since Rachel came to our house, her rapid intimacy with Ashley, her unusual interest in Daniel's work, everything started to connect. "Mrs. Foster." Detective Johnson's voice brought me back to reality. When I returned to the room, Daniel looked at me worriedly. "Meg, what happened? What did you see?" I was at a loss for words, just shaking my head. My body started trembling, and I couldn't stop it. "Mrs. Foster, are you all right?" Detective Parker asked concernedly. I took a deep breath, trying to calm down. But my mind was still in chaos. "Rachel, she..." I could barely squeeze out the words. Daniel put his arm around my shoulders and gently asked, "Meg, calm down. What happened?" With a trembling voice, I began to explain what I saw in the room. Rachel's actions, the evidence of toxins, the Snapchat messages. When I finished speaking, a heavy silence fell over the room. Daniel's face was pale, and he seemed to be at a loss for words too. "Is this real?" Daniel finally spoke. Detective Johnson answered quietly, "We find it hard to believe too. But the evidence is clear." "But why?" I asked in a desperate voice. "Why would Rachel?" Detective Parker began to explain carefully, choosing his words. "At this point, it's speculation, but it seems Ms. Rachel had a different motive." She was. At that moment, my cell phone rang loudly. Looking at the screen, I saw it was a call from Rachel. All eyes in the room focused on my phone. I looked at the detectives' faces, and after seeing them nod, I answered the phone with a trembling hand. "Hello, Rachel." My voice was shaking. "Megan, listen," Rachel's voice was filled with tension. "I'm coming there right now. I need to talk about Ashley." I made eye contact with the detectives. Detective Johnson gave a small nod, so I continued the conversation. "Rachel, what did you do to Ashley?" My voice was a mix of anger and fear. On the other end of the phone, I heard Rachel gasp. "You know," her voice became thin. "Why?" I asked, trying to suppress the urge to scream. "Why Ashley?" "Megan, listen," Rachel said desperately. "This is all a misunderstanding. I never meant to hurt Ashley." At that moment, I heard the sound of sirens in the background. I could hear Rachel inhale sharply. "Rachel, where are you now?" I asked. "In the hospital parking lot," her voice was trembling. "Megan, Suddenly, the call cut off. The room was once again enveloped in heavy silence. "She's here," Detective Johnson said quietly. "Our colleagues are already on their way to the scene." Daniel stood up. "We have to go. We need to see Rachel." I stood up too, but my legs were shaking. "I'm going too." Detective Parker said cautiously, "Both of you, this could be dangerous. Can't you leave it to us?" But Daniel and I were determined. "Rachel is our family," Daniel said. "We need to be the ones to meet her." The detectives hesitated for a moment but finally agreed. "All right. But please follow our instructions strictly." We hurried to the parking lot. In the elevator, I gripped Daniel's hand tightly. His hand was cold and trembling too. When we arrived at the parking lot, there were several police cars parked. And in the center, one car. Rachel's car. "Rachel!" Daniel called out. The car door slowly opened, and Rachel appeared. Her face was pale, and her eyes were filled with tears. "Daniel." "Megan." Her voice was trembling. I want to explain." Police officers approached Rachel. She showed no signs of resistance, just staring at us. "Why?" I asked again. "Why Ashley?" Rachel took a deep breath. I didn't mean to hurt Ashley. What I wanted was." At that moment, her words trailed off. Rachel's eyes widened, and she clutched her chest, collapsing. "Rachel!" Daniel rushed to her. Police officers and paramedics responded immediately, and Rachel was placed on a stretcher and rushed into the hospital. We stood there, stunned by the scene. Everything felt surreal, lacking a sense of reality. Detective Johnson approached us. "Mr. and Mrs. Foster, it looks like we're in for a long night. Let's return to your daughter's room. We'll explain everything there." We nodded silently and headed back to Ashley's side. Our minds were full of questions and anxiety, but one thing was certain: the truth that was about to be revealed would change our lives forever. Back in Ashley's hospital room, the sight of our daughter greeted us. She was still unconscious, surrounded by various medical equipment. Every time I saw this scene, my heart felt like it was being squeezed. Detectives Johnson and Parker quietly entered the room. Their expressions were grave, reflecting the seriousness of what they were about to say. "Mr. and Mrs. Foster," Detective Johnson began. "Rachel's interrogation is complete. She confessed to everything." Daniel and I held our breath. The moment to learn the truth had arrived. Detective Parker continued, "Rachel's motive was to steal confidential information from your company, Mr. Foster." Daniel's face contorted with surprise and confusion. "My company's?" "Yes," Detective Johnson nodded. "Rachel had been envious of your success for years, it seems. She was trying to sell information to a rival company of Karcher." My head was spinning, and I couldn't find words. I couldn't believe Rachel would go that far. "But why Ashley?" I asked in a trembling voice. Detective Parker carefully continued his explanation. "Rachel gradually poisoned Ashley to divert the family's attention. By doing so, she was trying to steal work-related information from Mr. Foster while the family was in chaos." The moment I heard those words, I felt something collapse inside me. Daniel seemed to be feeling the same way, almost collapsing into his chair. "But why go that far?" Daniel said in a hoarse voice. Detective Johnson let out a deep sigh. "It seems Rachel had been suffering from jealousy and feelings of inadequacy for years. Your success, it seems, had been eating away at her heart." I approached Ashley's bed with a mixture of anger and sadness. "For something like this, our daughter." My words caught in my throat. Daniel placed his hand on my shoulder. His hand was trembling too. "Meg." Suddenly, the door to the room opened, and a doctor hurriedly entered. "Mr. and Mrs. Foster, Rachel's condition has suddenly changed." We looked up in surprise. "Come to think of it, why did Rachel?" I asked the doctor. The doctor hesitated a bit before answering. "It seems Rachel was also exposed to the poison. Probably, in the process of poisoning Ashley, she accidentally ingested some herself. It's likely due to her carelessness and ignorance in handling the toxin." Hearing those words, we were at a loss for words. "Rachel too. Is her life in danger?" I asked in a voice surprisingly calm even to myself. The doctor nodded. "She's currently being treated in the intensive care unit. However, the situation is critical." A heavy silence fell over the room. Even the detectives seemed bewildered by this unexpected turn of events. "Ashley's treatment?" Daniel anxiously asked the doctor. "We're doing our best right now. With the information we obtained from Rachel, we can now provide more appropriate treatment," the doctor answered in a slightly hopeful tone. I let out a deep breath. It's difficult to have hope in this situation, but we must look forward. "What will happen now?" I muttered. Detective Johnson quietly answered, "We will continue our investigation. There are still many points to be clarified, such as the connection with the rival company." Daniel looked up and said with a determined expression, I'll take responsibility for the company matters. For now, Ashley's recovery is the top priority. I squeezed Daniel's hand. Yes, saving our daughter's life is the most important thing right now. Mr. and Mrs. Foster, Detective Parker said, the next few days are going to be tough. But we'll do our best to support you. We nodded gratefully. Looking out the window, the light of dawn was gradually spreading. The beginning of a new day, and the beginning of our new battle. As time passed, the number of medical staff coming and going in the hospital corridor increased. Ashley's condition remained critical. Daniel and I took turns staying by her side, continuously praying for her recovery. Meg, Daniel spoke to me with a tired expression. I called Karcher. I explained the situation and decided to take some time off. I nodded silently. Now we need to focus solely on Ashley. Amidst all this, an unexpected hand of support was extended to us. My colleagues from Quincy High School visited the hospital one after another, offering words of encouragement. Sarah Johnson, the head of the English department, held my hand tightly and said, "Megan, if there's anything we can do, just say the word." The students are worried about Ashley too. Hearing those words, I felt tears welling up. Thank you, Sarah. I'll let Ashley know everyone's feelings. And to my surprise, my students had made message cards for Ashley. The walls of the hospital room were decorated with colorful cards. The thoughts contained in each one of them gave us strength. One day, the attending physician came with a new proposal. Mr. and Mrs. Foster, I'd like to consult with Dr. Emily Harris, a toxicology specialist from Boston Children's Hospital. Would that be all right with you? We immediately agreed. The next day, Dr. Harris visited the hospital room. She greeted us with a warm smile. I'd like to try a new detoxification therapy, Dr. Harris began to explain. This is a recently developed method that shows promise for cases like Ashley's. We felt like we had found a ray of hope. Please, please help Ashley, I said desperately. The treatment began, and we watched Ashley's condition with bated breath. As time passed, little by little, changes began to appear in her condition. Her pulse is stabilizing, the nurse reported happily. Hearing those words, Daniel and I hugged each other spontaneously. We can't relax yet, but this is definitely progress. Meanwhile, Rachel's condition was also gradually improving. She hadn't regained consciousness yet, but it seemed she was out of life-threatening danger. Meg, Daniel quietly spoke to me one day. About Rachel, what should we do when she wakes up? I let out a deep breath. Honestly, I don't have the emotional capacity to think about Rachel yet. For now, I just want to think about Ashley. Daniel nodded silently. He probably feels the same way. As days passed, we continued to pray for Ashley's recovery, swinging between hope and anxiety. The sky visible from the hospital room window sometimes clouded over, sometimes cleared up, as if reflecting our state of mind. Then one day, Ashley's fingers moved slightly. Ashley! I gasped, holding my daughter's hand. Can you hear me? It's Mom. At that moment, Ashley's eyelids trembled slightly. A new ray of hope was lit in our hearts. Several weeks have passed since Ashley regained consciousness. Every day, little by little, her condition improves. At first, it was difficult for her to speak, but now she can have short conversations. Mom. Ashley calls out in a small voice. Aunt Rachel. I gently squeeze my daughter's hand. Don't worry about Aunt Rachel. You just need to focus on your recovery. In parallel with Ashley's recovery, preparations for Rachel's trial were progressing. She was indicted for industrial espionage and assault, set to stand trial in federal court. Meg, Daniel quietly spoke to me one day. I got a call from Rachel's lawyer. She wants to talk to us. I let out a deep sigh. I'm not ready for that yet. Daniel nodded, showing understanding. I see. There's no need to rush. Days passed, and Ashley's recovery progressed further. Finally, the day came for her to be discharged from the hospital. That day, when we arrived at the hospital lobby, we were greeted by a surprising sight. A large crowd of people had gathered there. Colleagues from Quincy High School, students, neighbors, everyone was there with warm smiles to celebrate Ashley's discharge. A large banner reading, "Welcome home, Ashley," was hung, and applause erupted. Ashley smiled, seeming a bit embarrassed but happy. Everyone, thank you. Sarah Johnson approached and gently hugged Ashley. You did well. Everyone is truly happy about your recovery. I felt tears welling up. Through this ordeal, we not only reaffirmed the strength of our family bonds but also realized the importance of community connections. In the car on the way home, Daniel quietly said, Meg, we've learned a lot from this experience. The importance of family, community bonds, and also the difficulty of trusting people. I nodded. Yes. But I think we can move forward with a new perspective now. Ashley spoke in a small voice from the back seat. Mom, Dad, thank you. I want to become stronger. Hearing those words, Daniel and I looked at each other and smiled. When we arrived home, there were welcome home decorations on the front porch. We could feel the kindness of our neighbors. As we entered the house, Ashley slowly sat down on the sofa. Home really is the best, she said happily. Late that night, after Daniel and I had finished tidying up, the phone suddenly rang. It was from an unknown number, but I had a feeling and decided to answer. Hello, Megan. The trembling voice of Rachel came from the other end of the line. I was momentarily at a loss for words, but I made eye contact with Daniel and put the phone on speaker mode. Rachel. I answered, trying to maintain my composure. Megan, Daniel. I'm truly sorry, Rachel's voice was tearful. I know what I did is unforgivable. But I felt I had to apologize. Daniel and I listened silently. Rachel continued. For hurting Ashley, for betraying your family. I'm really, really sorry. A long silence followed. Finally, Daniel spoke. Rachel, Your actions deeply hurt us. We can't forgive you right away. But, we've received your apology. I added, it will take time, Rachel. But if you're truly repentant, maybe someday there will be a day of reconciliation. After hanging up the phone, Daniel and I were silent for a long time. This conversation might be the beginning of our long healing process. We quietly sat around Ashley, spending family time together. Outside, the sun was setting, hinting at the start of a new day. Through this experience, we learned many things. The bonds of family, community support, and the unpredictability of life. But at the same time, we gained the strength to overcome difficulties. Many challenges still await us in our future life. Reconciliation with Rachel, Ashley's complete recovery, and readjustment to daily life. However, we have the strength to overcome them. Looking out the window, stars were beginning to shine. It was as if they were celebrating the beginning of our new life. A few days later, we received a call from the prosecutor. The date for Rachel's trial had been set. The trial starts next month, Daniel informed me. According to the prosecutor, Rachel will be charged with industrial espionage and assault. I let out a deep sigh. How long could the sentence be? Daniel thought for a moment before answering. The charge of industrial espionage alone carries a maximum sentence of 15 years in prison. And then there's the assault charge for Ashley. That long? I couldn't hide my surprise. Yes. But the actual sentence will depend on the trial outcome. Rachel's attitude and level of remorse will also be taken into consideration. Ashley quietly interjected into the conversation. Did Aunt Rachel really do something bad? We looked at our daughter's face. Ashley's eyes showed sadness and confusion. Yes, Ashley, I explained gently. But she will receive appropriate judgment based on the law. And maybe, someday she might be able to rehabilitate herself. Daniel nodded. That's right. Justice is important, but at the same time, we shouldn't forget the possibility of forgiveness. Through this conversation, we once again felt the importance of family bonds and the complexity of human nature. Rachel's actions are unforgivable, but she is also human. After she receives her judgment, how she will rebuild her life, that might also be something we need to watch over. Well, tomorrow marks the beginning of new days, I said to my family. Daniel and Ashley nodded, and we looked at each other. Having overcome this ordeal and strengthened our family bonds, we were ready to take a new step forward. My name is Sarah Johnson. I'm 35 years old and live in a small house in the suburbs of Boston with my husband David, our 5-year-old son Ethan, and our beloved cat Whiskers. As I brewed my usual morning coffee in the sunlit kitchen, I thought about the busy day ahead. Ethan, breakfast is ready. I called upstairs, and soon I heard little footsteps racing down. Good morning, Mom. Has Dad already left? Ethan hugged me with a big smile, but his voice sounded a bit sad. Yes, he left early this morning for a business trip. But he'll be back by the weekend, I answered, gently stroking his blonde hair. David's work-related absences have become routine for our family. As we ate breakfast, I mentally organized my day's schedule. My managerial job at a marketing firm always means tight schedules and constant pressure. But seeing Ethan's smile gives me the strength to keep going. "Mom, can we go to the park this afternoon?" Ethan asked with a mouthful of pancakes. "I'm sorry, honey. Mom has to work late today. But let's go this weekend when Dad gets back, okay?" Ethan looked a little disappointed but quickly replied, "Okay, I understand. I'm looking forward to going with Dad." His understanding attitude always warms my heart. After dropping Ethan off at kindergarten, I thought about David on my drive to the office. His frequent business trips are a big challenge for our family. But it's also true that we're able to live comfortably thanks to his hard work. At the office, it was the usual marathon of meetings. The day flew by with planning new ad campaigns and client consultations. While eating lunch at my desk, Ethan's smiling face popped into my mind, giving me a moment of peace. Around 3 p.m., I was suddenly struck by severe abdominal pain. My colleague Jennifer rushed over, looking worried as I grimaced in pain. "Sarah, are you all right? You look pale." "My stomach, it hurts." I could barely speak. At Jennifer's urging, I decided to go to the hospital. After an examination, I was diagnosed with acute appendicitis and told I needed immediate hospitalization and surgery. But who will take care of Ethan? I asked the doctor in distress. "Can you contact a family member to look after your child?" the doctor gently suggested. David was on his business trip. My parents live far away and couldn't come immediately. After some hesitation, I decided to call my mother-in-law, Martha. We've had a somewhat awkward relationship, but I had no choice but to rely on her now. "Martha. It's Sarah. I have an urgent request." I explained the situation and asked her to take care of Ethan. Martha hesitated for a moment before answering, "All right. I'll take care of Ethan." As I lay on the operating table, I couldn't stop worrying about Ethan. But I knew I had to prioritize my health now. "Ethan, I'm sorry. Mommy will get better and come home soon," I whispered in my heart as the anesthesia slowly took effect. After the surgery, I woke up in a hospital bed. The soft sunlight streaming into the room told me it was morning. The surgery was successful, but I still felt pain all over my body. A nurse came in and gently spoke to me. "Mrs. Johnson, you're awake. How are you feeling?" "Thank you, it hurts a bit, but I'm okay," I answered weakly. After the nurse left, I immediately reached for my smartphone. I was so worried about Ethan. Martha had only sent a brief "he's fine" message last night, which didn't tell me much about the situation. I opened the pet camera app one had installed a few months ago. It was originally meant to keep an eye on Whiskers, but now it would help me check on Ethan. The screen showed our living room. At first, everything seemed normal, but after a while, Martha entered the room. She seemed to be looking for something, walking around the room. Then, she found Whisker's food bag on the kitchen counter and picked it up. No way. I felt a sense of unease as I stared at the screen. Martha took the food bag and went to another room. She was out of the camera's view for a while, but soon returned with Ethan. "Come on, Ethan. It's breakfast time," I heard Martha's voice. "But Grandma, this is Whisker's food," Ethan said, looking confused. "Don't say that. This is your breakfast for today. Now, eat up." Martha placed a bowl in front of Ethan and started pouring the cat food into it. Ethan tried to get up from his chair with a frightened expression, but Martha firmly held his shoulder down. "Grandma, stop. I don't want to eat this," Ethan cried out. I was shocked by this scene. I couldn't understand what was driving Martha to such behavior. I couldn't help but shout out loud, "Martha! Stop this right now." Martha looked surprised and glanced around the room. She didn't know about the pet camera. "Sarah, where are you?" Martha asked, confused. "It's the pet camera, Martha. I can see everything you're doing. How dare you try to make Ethan eat cat food? Have you lost your mind?" Martha was stunned for a moment, but her expression quickly turned to anger. "Oh, I see. You've been spying on me. I can't believe this. It's not spying. I was just checking on Ethan's safety. More importantly, why are you doing this?" Instead of answering, Martha suddenly grabbed Ethan's arm and tried to drag him out of the room. "Grandma, it hurts," Ethan cried out. "Martha, stop. Don't hurt Ethan," I shouted desperately, but Martha wouldn't listen. Martha and Ethan disappeared from the screen, seemingly moving to another room. After a while, only Martha returned. She stared at the camera with cold eyes. "Sarah, you don't understand anything. I'm doing this for Ethan's own good." "What are you talking about? How is feeding him cat food good for Ethan?" Martha didn't answer. Instead, she slowly approached the camera and reached out her hand. The next moment, the screen went black, and the connection was lost. I was shaking with fear and anger. I had no idea what Martha was doing or where Ethan was. I desperately pressed the nurse call button. "Please, it's an emergency. Can you contact the police and ask them to go to my son's house?" The nurse looked confused but, seeing my desperate state, quickly complied. She contacted the police and explained the situation. Meanwhile, I tried calling David multiple times, but couldn't reach him. He was probably in a meeting. I left a voicemail asking him to call me back urgently. Time passed slowly. As I waited for news from the police, my mind was filled with anxiety and fear. Was Ethan safe? What was Martha thinking? And above all, I felt guilty for causing this situation. Finally, I got a call from the police. They had arrived at the house and spoken with Martha. Ethan was safe and currently in his room. However, Martha was being uncooperative with the police, insisting that there was no problem. I felt a little relieved, but I still couldn't completely relax. I didn't understand the reason for Martha's abnormal behavior. and I felt a sense of urgency to resolve this situation as quickly as possible. 3 days later, the doctor gave me permission to be discharged. Normally, a week-long hospital stay would be necessary after such surgery, but they allowed early discharge at my insistence. My body hadn't fully recovered yet, but I was so worried about Ethan that I wanted to get home as soon as possible. "Mrs. Johnson, please don't overexert yourself," the nurse said with concern. "Thank you. I'll be fine," I smiled in response, but inside I was filled with anxiety. On the taxi ride home, I tried calling David several times, but still couldn't reach him. The police had reported daily that Ethan was safe, but I still couldn't feel at ease. When I arrived home, I saw Martha standing in front of the entrance. Her expression was hard, and she didn't smile when she saw me. "Welcome home, Sarah," Martha's voice sounded cold. "I'm back, Martha. Where's Ethan?" "He's playing in his room." I quickly entered the house and headed to Ethan's room. When I opened the door, I saw Ethan sitting on the floor playing with Legos. "Ethan!" "Mom!" Ethan jumped up and clung to me. I hugged him tightly, checking for any signs of harm. Fortunately, there were no visible injuries. "Are you okay? Did Grandma do anything to you?" I asked in a low voice. Ethan hesitated for a moment before answering. "Grandma was scary. She told me to eat cat food and locked me in my room." Anger welled up in my chest. I needed an explanation from Martha. "Ethan, Mommy's going to talk to Grandma. Stay here, okay?" When I returned to the living room, Martha was sitting on the sofa. I stood in front of her and asked with a serious expression, "Martha, can you explain yourself? Why did you do such terrible things to Ethan?" Martha averted her eyes for a moment but then looked straight back at me. "Sarah, you wouldn't understand. I did it for Ethan's own good." "How is feeding him cat food good for Ethan? That child is too spoiled. He needs to learn that life isn't always easy." I was just trying to teach him that. I was shocked by Martha's words. Her thinking was beyond common sense. "Besides," Martha continued, "the way you and David are raising him, Ethan will turn out badly." I thought I had to correct that. "That's..." At that moment, we heard the front door open. Turning around, we saw David standing there. "Sarah, why are you home? What about the hospital?" David asked, surprised. "David, where have you been? I've been trying to reach you so many times." David looked confused and started to say, "I was busy with work." But he seemed to notice the tense atmosphere between us. "Did something happen?" I explained the situation to David. Martha's behavior, her treatment of Ethan, and how I even had to call the police. I could see David's expression changing gradually. "Mom, is this true?" David asked Martha. "Yes, it's true. But it was all for Ethan's sake," Martha answered in a strong tone. I was watching David's reaction, but I felt something was off. Instead of surprise or anger, he seemed guilty. "David, did you know about this?" I asked fearfully. After a long silence, David slowly nodded. Sarah, I'm sorry. The truth is, I've been aware of Mom's behavior for a while now. Why didn't you stop her? My voice was trembling. Mom was dissatisfied with our parenting, and sometimes I agreed with her. David stumbled over his words. I stared at David in disbelief. To think that my husband had been silently allowing his mother's abnormal behavior. I felt betrayed. David, you're just as guilty. You put Ethan in danger. No, Sarah. But I wasn't willing to listen anymore. The problems in this family were deeper than I had imagined. Martha's distorted thinking, David's indecisiveness, and my own lack of awareness. All of these factors had combined to create this situation. I noticed Ethan peeking from the corner of the room. His eyes were filled with anxiety and fear. I took a deep breath, trying to regain my composure. Everyone, let's calm down and talk. For Ethan's sake, we adults need to find a solution. With those words, a long and difficult family meeting began. The three of us, me, David, and Martha, sat on the living room sofa, with an indescribable tension hanging in the air. Let's start by hearing from Martha, I quietly began. Why did you treat Ethan that way? Please tell us the real reason. Martha took a deep sigh and spoke with a distant look in her eyes. I once had 3 children of my own. David and I exchanged surprised looks. We had been told that David had no siblings. All 3 of them left home because of my overly strict discipline. David was the only one who stayed with me. Tears glistened in Martha's eyes. It was a vulnerable expression I had never seen before. I failed in raising my children. That's why I wanted Ethan to grow up strong and tough. But that doesn't justify trying to feed him cat food or locking him up, I said quietly but firmly. I know, but he seemed so spoiled to me. Martha's voice trembled. David spoke up. Mom, if you had concerns about our parenting, you should have communicated them differently. I don't want to hear that from you, David. Martha's voice suddenly turned cold. You knew and said nothing. I turned to David. Is that true? Why did you keep quiet? David covered his face with his hands, and after a moment of silence, he slowly began to speak. I sensed something was off about Mom's behavior. But I didn't want to hurt her. And Sarah, I didn't want to ruin our relationship either. But it was okay for Ethan to get hurt. My voice shook with anger. No. That's not. David tried desperately to explain, but the words wouldn't come. At this moment, I understood my husband's complex position. Love for his mother and responsibility towards his wife and child. He had been struggling between these two. However, while I could understand, I couldn't forgive. David, your indecisiveness made this situation worse. Martha interjected. Sarah, don't blame David. It's all my responsibility. A look of determination appeared in her eyes. My way of showing love was wrong. I tried to make Ethan strong, but I ended up hurting him instead. I'm truly sorry. With Martha's words, I felt the ice in my heart begin to melt a little. However, many problems still remained. After Martha's confession, a temporary silence fell over the room. Each of us was trying to sort out our thoughts. I broke the silence. Martha, I understand your past now. But that's no excuse for abusing Ethan. Abuse? That's. Martha tried to retort, but I cut her off. Trying to feed him cat food and locking him up is clearly abuse. Whatever your intentions, you ended up hurting Ethan. David intervened. Sarah, please be a little more gentle. Gentle? David, you should have taken a firmer stance. My voice trembled with anger. The room's atmosphere became tense again. I was thinking about Ethan too, Martha argued. Modern parenting is too soft. He'll struggle when he enters society. That's for us to decide. You have no right to interfere. No right? I'm his grandmother. It's natural for me to worry about my grandson's future. The argument escalated, with our voices gradually getting louder. Both of you, calm down, David tried desperately to mediate, but our quarrel didn't stop. Sarah, you're spoiling Ethan too much. Martha, your discipline is outdated and harmful. As the emotional confrontation continued, suddenly a small voice was heard. Stop it. We turned around to see Ethan standing at the room's entrance. His eyes were filled with tears, and he was hugging himself tightly. Everyone, please don't fight. At that moment, we all felt ashamed of our behavior. The sight of the young child caught in the middle of adults' disputes was heartbreaking. Ethan slowly entered the room and walked straight to Martha. We held our breath, watching. Grandma, Ethan took Martha's hand in his small ones. I was scared of you, but I don't hate you. Tears welled up in Martha's eyes. But you know, I don't want to eat cat food. Human food tastes better. Ethan's innocent words changed the atmosphere in the room completely. Martha burst into tears and hugged Ethan. I'm sorry, Ethan. Grandma was wrong. David and I were speechless at this unexpected turn of events. Ethan's pure heart had untangled the complex knot of adult emotions. David took my hand. Sarah, I need to apologize too. I should have spoken up earlier and more clearly. I exhaled deeply. While anger and distrust still lingered, perhaps it was time to take the first step towards reconciliation. Let's start over, I suggested. For Ethan's sake, we adults need to work together. Martha and David nodded. Ethan looked around at the three of us, a small smile forming on his face. At that moment, we took a new start as a family. There are still many problems to solve, but I believe Ethan's pure love will guide us in the right direction. The road ahead won't be easy. But we are determined to move forward, one step at a time, keeping today's events close to our hearts. 3 months have passed since then. Our family now attends weekly family counseling sessions with Dr. Anderson. At first, everyone was tense and struggled to open up, but gradually we began to share our true feelings. "Martha, I understand how your past experiences have influenced your current behavior," Dr. Anderson spoke in a gentle voice. "However, that doesn't justify hurting your grandson." Martha nodded, her eyes tearing up as she replied, "I know. My actions were wrong. I'm truly sorry for hurting Ethan." Hearing her words, I felt the ice in my heart melting bit by bit. David has changed too. I should have intervened earlier. I deeply regret not being able to protect my wife and son. As we continued with counseling, we began to understand each other's feelings and build new relationships. Martha is working hard to change her behavior and repair her relationship with Ethan. One afternoon, we were having a picnic in the park. As we watched Ethan happily playing on the playground equipment, Martha approached me. "Sarah, you and David are wonderful parents," she said with a soft smile. "Ethan looks so happy and is growing up so healthily." "Thank you, Martha," I replied with genuine gratitude. Just then, Ethan came running over. "Grandma, let's go on the swing together." Martha hesitated for a moment, but her face naturally lit up at Ethan's innocent smile. "Of course, Ethan." Watching the two of them happily heading towards the swings, I felt a warmth in my chest. As we were preparing to go home in the evening, Ethan suddenly stood in front of Martha. "Grandma, I'm not scared anymore. I love you." Overwhelmed with emotion, Martha gently hugged Ethan. "I love you too, Ethan. I'm sorry, Grandma was wrong before." Seeing this scene, David and I caught each other's eye and smiled. On the way home, Ethan contentedly said, "Today was the best day ever." I gently stroked my son's head and replied, "Yes, it really was a wonderful day." Family bonds can sometimes be hurt and shaken. But with mutual care and an unwillingness to give up, they can always be repaired. Today's events proved that. We'll surely face more difficulties in the future. But we're not afraid anymore. We have confidence that we can overcome them together as a family. I'm Sarah Anderson, a typical housewife who just turned 35. This spring, my life was about to change dramatically. The morning sun gently wakes me as it streams through the window. Suddenly, I feel a strange sensation in my belly. I've just entered the 36th week of pregnancy, but something feels different. As I lie there, I place my hand on my stomach and feel a sharp pain I've never experienced before. "Michael, wake up," I shake my husband sleeping next to me. "My stomach, it hurts." Michael slowly sits up, rubbing his eyes. "Are you okay? We still have time before the due date, don't we?" His words reassure me a little, but the pain doesn't subside. But something's different. Maybe we should go to the hospital. Michael looks at the clock with a slightly troubled expression. "I have an important meeting today. Can we wait a bit longer and see how it goes?" I hesitate but decide to follow his suggestion. "All right. But I'll call you if the pain gets worse." Michael hurriedly gets ready and leaves with a kiss on my cheek. Left alone at home, I spend time battling pain and anxiety. Past noon, the pain becomes unbearable. I try calling Michael, but he doesn't answer as he's in a meeting. With no other choice, I call a taxi and head to the nearest hospital alone. At the hospital, I'm immediately guided to the obstetrics examination room. Dr. Brown examines me and looks surprised. "Mrs. Anderson, the baby is about to be born. Let's move you to the delivery room right away." I tremble with shock and fear. But it's too early. And my husband isn't here. Dr. Brown gently takes my hand. "It's going to be all right. We'll support you fully. We'll contact your husband too." As I move to the delivery room, nurses busily start preparations. Amidst the pain and anxiety clouding my mind, I desperately try to remember the breathing techniques. "That's it, deep breaths. You're doing great," a nurse's voice brings me back to reality. Fighting through contractions, I desperately try to push the baby out. Sweat blurs my vision. I lose all sense of time, with only pain dominating my world. Then suddenly, a baby's cry fills the room. "Congratulations, it's a girl." I hear Dr. Brown's voice. Tears of relief and joy overflow. A nurse wipes the baby clean and places her on my chest. As I hold this small, warm life, all the pain seems to vanish like a lie. "Hello, my angel," I whisper to the baby. The nurse lifts the baby to weigh her. 2,800 grams. That's a good weight for a premature baby. I smile and hold the baby's tiny hand. That's when I notice a small birthmark on the sole of her right foot. "Oh, this birthmark." The nurse takes a look. "Ah, that birthmark. Don't worry. It's likely congenital. It'll be a unique feature of your child." I nod, relieved. Then I notice another small mole on her right shoulder. "There's a mole on her right shoulder too." "Yes, I see. But this is also nothing to worry about. It's rather cute, actually," the nurse smiles kindly. Exhausted and overwhelmed with happiness, my consciousness starts to fade. Before closing my eyes, I search for Michael, but he's nowhere to be seen. "Ma'am, please rest now. We'll take good care of the baby." With the nurse's words, I drift into a deep sleep. When I wake up, I find myself in a hospital bed. It's dusk outside, and I'm not sure how long I've been asleep. "Sarah, you're awake." I turn towards Michael's voice and see him sitting in a chair, watching me. However, his expression isn't one of joy. "Michael, the baby?" I ask weakly. Michael takes a deep breath and holds my hand. "Sarah, please stay calm and listen." My heart starts racing. What happened? Is the baby all right? Michael lowers his eyes and begins speaking in a heavy tone. "The baby died shortly after birth." With those words, my world crumbles. No, that can't be true. I heard the baby cry. I even held her. "Sarah, you were in shock right after the delivery. The doctor told me. The baby's lungs were underdeveloped." I shake my head vigorously. "No. My baby was healthy. She had a birthmark on her foot and a mole on her shoulder. The nurse saw them too. Michael looks at me with sad eyes. Sarah, that was a dream. The baby is gone. I break down in tears. Michael embraces me, but in his arms, all I can do is call out my child's name over and over. My mind is in chaos, my heart feels torn apart. I can no longer distinguish between reality and nightmare. Only the absence of the small life that should be in my arms feels cruelly real. 3 days have passed since we lost the baby. My heart is sunk in deep sorrow. The baby items we had prepared silently tell the story of our loss. Michael is hardly home, immersing himself in work. Perhaps it's his way of expressing grief. This morning too, I wake up with a heavy heart. The morning sun streaming through the window, which once heralded the hopeful start of a new day, now holds no meaning. I drag myself out of bed and head to the kitchen. While brewing coffee, my eyes fall on the baby's bottle, and I feel my chest tighten again. Why? I whisper softly. Suddenly, the phone rings. It's an unknown number, but thinking it might be the hospital, I hurriedly answer. Hello, this is Sarah Anderson. Mrs. Anderson, this is Nurse Linda from St. Mary's Hospital. Don't leave the baby behind. For a moment, I'm at a loss for words. What do you mean? Today's your discharge day, right? Don't leave the baby behind. I'll report to the police if you do. Confused, I managed to squeeze out some words. But, my baby died 3 days ago. What are you talking about? The baby is fine. I just fed her this morning. My mind goes blank. Is this some kind of mistake, or? I'm sorry, let me confirm again. My name is Sarah Anderson, and I gave birth at St. Mary's Hospital 3 days ago. And the baby? Linda interrupts me. Yes, that's right. Mrs. Anderson's baby, a girl, right? She's sleeping soundly in the nursery right now. My hand starts to shake. But my husband said the baby had died. Mrs. Anderson, are you all right? Linda's voice is filled with concern. The baby is really fine. Can you come here right away? Yes, I'm coming right now. After hanging up, I quickly change clothes and grab my bag. My mind is in turmoil, but one thing is certain, I need to know the truth. As I take a taxi to the hospital, my heart keeps pounding. If the baby is really alive, but why did Michael lie? Arriving at the hospital, I bypass the reception and jump into the elevator. When I reach the floor with the nursery, I rush down the hallway. As I stop in front of the nursery, a nurse who looks like Linda notices me and approaches with a smile. Mrs. Anderson, we've been waiting for you. This way. Linda leads me to the back of the room. There are small beds lined up. She stops in front of one of them and says gently, "Here she is. Your baby." With trembling hands, I gently pull back the blanket. There lies a small baby girl sleeping. At that moment, tears flood my eyes. She's really alive. I look at the baby's right foot and see that distinctive birthmark. And on her right shoulder, there's the mole just as I remembered. This is my baby, without a doubt. Linda looks at me with a puzzled expression. Mrs. Anderson, what on earth happened? Wiping my tears, I explain the situation to Linda. About how Michael said the baby had died, about the events of the past 3 days. Linda listened with a serious expression. This sounds very serious. We might need to report this to the police. I pick up the baby and feel her warmth. No, not yet. First, I need to know the truth. Linda hesitates a bit but nods. I understand. But if you need any help, please let me know immediately. As I gaze at the baby, I steel my resolve. Thank you. I will definitely uncover the truth. However, at that moment, a new worry crosses my mind. Should I take the baby home right now, or? Linda, I carefully choose my words. Could you keep the baby here a little longer? I want to keep her in a safe place until I get to the bottom of this. Linda shows understanding. Of course. The baby's safety comes first. But we can't keep her here for too long. I let out a deep breath. I understand. I'll resolve everything as quickly as possible. As I leave the hospital, anger and determination swirl in my heart. I will demand explanations from Michael and anyone else involved. And I will protect my baby at all costs. As I get into a taxi, I take a deep breath. I can't even imagine how difficult the journey to uncover the truth will be. But for this small life, I'm prepared to fight to the end. Upon returning home from the hospital, Michael rushed into the living room looking flustered. Sarah, where have you been? I was worried. I answered, trying to appear calm. Just went out for a bit. A momentary confusion crossed Michael's face. I see, where to? To the hospital, I said, watching his reaction closely. Michael's face turned pale. Why? Are you feeling unwell? Yes, a little, I answered vaguely. But I'm fine. From that night on, I began to carefully observe Michael's behavior. He had clearly changed. He was restless and constantly checking his mobile phone. Late at night, I overheard Michael's hushed conversation. I know. But it's impossible now. Sarah might be suspicious. Anger welled up in my chest. Who is he talking to? What is he hiding? The next day, I called Emily, my colleague and close friend. Emily, I need to talk. Can we meet? We met at a cafe and sat at a quiet corner table. I confided everything to her. About the baby, Michael's lies, and his suspicious behavior. Emily listened with a serious expression. Sarah, this is serious. Is there anything I can do? Yes, I hesitated a bit but continued. Could you investigate Michael's actions? There's only so much I can do. Emily nodded without hesitation. Leave it to me. I'll do everything I can. From that day on, Emily began to secretly investigate Michael's actions. I decided to maintain a calm facade until I uncovered the truth. A week after Emily's investigation began, I received an urgent call from her. "Sarah, I have important information. Can we meet right away?" We met at the same cafe as before. Emily's expression was dark, suggesting something serious. "Sarah, brace yourself." Emily took a deep breath before continuing. "Michael, he's having an affair." My heart nearly stopped. "What?" "With a woman named Jessica. She seems to be Michael's colleague." "But that's not all." Emily took out her phone and showed me a photo. It showed Michael talking intimately with a woman. "Is this Jessica?" I asked with a trembling voice. Emily nodded. "Yes. But there's something even more shocking." She showed me another photo. There was a familiar figure in it. "Is that Michael's mother?" "Yes. It seems Michael's mother is involved in this too." My mind started to spin. Michael, Jessica, and my mother-in-law, what on earth is going on? That night, on my way home, I accidentally overheard Michael's phone conversation. "Mom, I know. But it's not good right now. Sarah might have noticed something. Jessica is getting impatient too. But I need a little more time." All the pieces started to fall into place in my mind. Michael, Jessica, and my mother-in-law, they're conspiring together. And at the center of it all is my baby. The next day, I met with Emily again and shared the new information. Combining her investigation with the conversation I overheard, a terrifying truth emerged. Michael and Jessica were having an affair, and Jessica wanted a child. However, for some reason, she couldn't have one herself. So they planned to take my baby and raise it as Jessica's child. My mother-in-law knew about the plan and was cooperating. She had never liked me much. She probably wanted a more suitable woman for her son, namely, Jessica. But why did they return the baby to the hospital? I asked, confused. Emily said thoughtfully, perhaps out of guilt, or fear of being discovered. But it seems they haven't given up yet. I sighed deeply. I can't believe it, my family was trying to steal my baby. Emily squeezed my hand. Sarah, what are you going to do now? I answered with determination, I'm going to expose the truth. And get my baby back. At this moment, I realized I was about to face the most difficult battle of my life. But to protect my child, I was ready to overcome any obstacle. Now that we knew the truth, Emily and I began to collect evidence in earnest. We started investigating Michael's computer and smartphone during his absence. Sarah, look at this, Emily pointed to Michael's email. There were arrangements for secret meetings with Jessica. With a heavy heart but trying to stay calm, I asked, anything else? Emily checked the call records and discovered frequent communications between Jessica and my mother-in-law. This is clearly suspicious. Next, we started investigating Jessica's background. We found her social media accounts and, scrolling through her past posts, uncovered a shocking fact. Sarah, look at this, Emily pointed at the screen. There was a post indicating that Jessica had been undergoing fertility treatment. So that's why she wanted my baby. I choked on my words, and Emily gently placed her hand on mine. We also investigated my mother-in-law's past. We were able to get testimonies from neighbors and family acquaintances that she had tried to drive away her son's girlfriends in the past. She's really a scary person, I said with a trembling voice. Finally, we prepared the decisive evidence, photos of the baby's distinctive birthmarks taken at the hospital. With this, I can prove without a doubt that this child is my baby. Emily hugged my shoulders. Sarah, we've gathered enough evidence. Now it's time to confront them. I took a deep breath and steeled my resolve. Yes, it's time to reveal the truth. The day after gathering the evidence, I made a decision. I decided to summon Michael, Jessica, and my mother-in-law to our home. Did something happen? Michael asked anxiously. Yes, I have something important to discuss, I answered, trying to appear calm. Soon after, Jessica and my mother-in-law arrived. The three of them gathered in the living room, their expressions clearly showing agitation. I have something I want to ask all of you, I began quietly but firmly. Sarah, what's this about? Michael asked nervously. It's about my baby. At these words, the faces of all three turned pale. What do you mean? My mother-in-law asked in a cold voice. The baby is alive. I confirmed it at the hospital. Jessica suddenly stood up. That's a lie. That child is. My child, I interrupted her. The baby you all tried to steal from me. A heavy silence fell over the room. Sarah, calm down, Michael tried to placate me. You're confused. The ones who are confused are you, I replied calmly. I know everything. Your plan. My mother-in-law opened her mouth. What are you talking about? We didn't. That's enough, I cut her off and took out the evidence I had prepared. Look at this. The email exchanges between Michael and Jessica, the call records, Jessica's fertility treatment records, and the photos of the baby's birthmarks. As I presented the evidence one after another, the three of them were at a loss for words. Why? I asked, holding back tears. Why did you do this? Michael collapsed into a chair. Sarah, Shut up. Jessica shouted. You promised, didn't you? That you'd give me a child. Son, explain yourself, my mother-in-law said in a stern voice. Michael covered his face with his hands. I'm sorry, Sarah. I'm truly sorry. Jessica wanted a child. I love her, but at the very end, my conscience hurt. So that's why you returned the baby to the hospital? I asked coldly. Michael nodded slightly. Jessica was trembling with anger. What about our promise? What about my life? My mother-in-law was trying to regain her composure. Sarah, this is all a misunderstanding. That's enough, I interrupted her. No more lies. A heavy silence fell over the room. Michael was crying. Jessica was shaking with anger, and my mother-in-law was staring at me with cold eyes. "What are you going to do now?" Michael asked in a small voice. I took a deep breath and answered, "I'm filing for divorce. And I will have full custody of the baby. Don't come near me or my child ever again." "But, Sarah," Michael started to say, but I raised my hand to stop him. "It's over. Get out." The three of them left the house one by one without a word. With the sound of the door closing, I felt something break inside me, and at the same time, I felt something new beginning to grow. This is not the end. Rather, it's the beginning of a new life. A new life for me and my baby. The day after the final confrontation, I reported to the police. While the investigation was ongoing, the baby was safely staying in the hospital's NICU neonatal intensive care unit. I visited the hospital almost every day, cherishing the time I spent with my baby. When the police arrived, things started moving quickly. Michael, Jessica, and my mother-in-law were called to the police station for questioning. I was also asked to give a detailed testimony and submitted all the evidence I had gathered. "Mrs. Anderson, we respect your courage," the detective in charge told me. "This evidence is very compelling." The legal process was more complex than I had anticipated. To gain custody of the baby, I worked closely with a lawyer. Fortunately, the hospital staff and local social workers were on my side. "Sarah, you're going to be a wonderful mother," Emily encouraged me. "Everyone is on your side." The support from the local community was also reassuring. Neighbors brought meals, and church members offered prayers. The pastor stood by me, providing spiritual support. "God is watching over you and your baby," the pastor's words gave me courage. I also proceeded with the divorce simultaneously. Michael accepted all demands without resistance. His expression was filled with regret. "Sarah, I'm truly sorry," Michael said in a small voice as he signed the divorce papers. "I pray for your and the baby's happiness." A few weeks later, the court granted me full custody of the baby. At the same time, Michael and the others' actions were recognized as serious crimes. "Congratulations, Mrs. Anderson," the judge said with a smile. "Your courage and determination have brought justice." Finally, I was able to bring the baby home. After long days in the NICU, the moment of returning home with my child in my arms was indescribably joyful. "Welcome home, Amy," I whispered to the baby. Amy, a name meaning beloved. A new life began. The path as a single mother is certainly not easy, but I had strong determination. Amy's smile gives me the strength to overcome all difficulties. "Mommy will do her best," I promised, hugging Amy. "Let's build a happy life together." The community support continues. Mom friends give me parenting advice, and the church provides childcare services. "Sarah, you're not alone," Emily's words still resonate in my heart. Indeed, there are many challenges ahead. But when I think about watching Amy grow and walking this path together, my heart fills with hope. Our new life has begun, I gazed at the morning sun spreading outside the window while soothing Amy. The beginning of a new day, and the start of our new life. Through this experience, I have become stronger. My name is Eleanor Johnson, and I'm 68 years old this year. Frank, my husband of 45 years, passed away to heaven 3 years ago. Now I live quietly in a small town, but my heart aches when I think about my family. My son James is 38 and works for a local construction company. His wife Sarah is 35 and works as a librarian at the town library. And my treasure, my granddaughter Sophia, is 6 years old. She's like a blonde angel, the spitting image of my late Frank. James and Sarah's marriage seems to be on the rocks lately. It might be due to financial problems or stress from James's work. If Frank were here, he could have given our son some sound advice. But now, I believe they're trying their best for Sophia's sake. At least, that's what I wanted to believe. On Thursday night, I was knitting while watching TV as usual. The sound of rain was hitting the windows, with lightning occasionally slicing through the sky. The weather forecast said it would rain heavily tonight. Oh my, the morning glories will be in a sorry state tomorrow, I muttered to myself as I changed the channel to the news. Suddenly, I heard a knock at the front door. Looking at the clock, it was past 9:30 p.m. Who could it be at this hour? I wondered. I grabbed a flashlight and cautiously approached the door. Another knock, this time sounding weaker. Who is it? I called out as I opened the door, and my breath caught in my throat. Standing before me was Sophia. Her rain-soaked blonde hair was plastered to her face, her pajamas were covered in mud. And blood. I could see several small cuts on her arms and face. Grandma. Sophia's voice was trembling. Sophia. What happened? I hurriedly pulled my granddaughter close and brought her inside. Sophia couldn't stop shaking, and she could barely speak. I quickly fetched a bath towel and wrapped it around her body. It's all right, you're safe now. Grandma's here with you, I said gently while stroking her hair. Daddy. Daddy. Sophia sobbed, struggling to get the words out. Take your time, sweetie. Take a deep breath, I encouraged her. After waiting for Sophia to calm down a bit, I gently asked, what happened? Why did you come alone in the middle of the night like this? Sophia, with tears welling up in her big eyes, hesitantly began to speak. Daddy got angry, he hit me. The moment I heard those words, something inside me froze. James, hitting his own daughter. Unable to believe it, I was about to ask for more details when Sophia collapsed in my arms as if all her strength had left her. Sophia. Sophia. I quickly picked her up and laid her on the sofa. Thankfully, she seemed to still be conscious. It's okay, you're safe now, I reassured her while considering my next move. First, I needed to contact Sarah. It took a while to calm Sophia down. While giving her some warm cocoa, I spoke to her gently. Sophia, it's all right. Grandma's here with you. When you're ready, can you tell me what happened? Sophia, clutching the mug with trembling hands, began to speak in a small voice. Daddy was scary. Daddy was scary. Why? I asked. Daddy yelled loudly, and then Sophia's words caught in her throat. And then I prompted gently. He pushed me. I hit the wall. Sophia's eyes filled with tears again. My heart felt like it was being squeezed. Sophia, you did well to tell me. You're such a brave girl, I said. As I asked for more details, I learned that James had come home drunk and started getting angry at Sophia over something trivial. If Sarah had been there, she might have been able to stop him, but I found out she had been in the hospital for a few days. What about Mommy? Why wasn't Mommy at home? I asked. Mommy is in the hospital. Sophia's voice became even smaller. I quickly picked up the phone and dialed Sarah's cell phone. After several rings, there was finally an answer. Hello, Sarah. Is that you, Sarah? I asked urgently. Mother-in-law, what's wrong? It's so late. Sarah's weak voice came through the phone. I'm sorry, Sarah. But it's urgent. It's about Sophia. Sophia? What happened? Sarah's voice became panicked. I took a deep breath and explained the situation. Sarah's scream-like voice echoed through the phone. No. James, but because I wasn't there. Sarah's voice changed to crying. Sarah, why are you in the hospital? I asked. I fell down the stairs 2 days ago and broke my leg. As I listened to Sarah's explanation, anger welled up inside me. I understand. Sarah, your recovery is important right now. I'll take care of Sophia, I assured her. After hanging up, I sat back down next to Sophia. Sophia, you'll sleep at Grandma's house tonight. We'll go see a doctor tomorrow. Sophia nodded slightly. As I hugged my granddaughter, I was desperately trying to figure out what to do next. The next morning, I took Sophia to a pediatrician. Fortunately, there were no serious injuries, but the doctor said there was suspicion of abuse and that he would contact Child Protective Services. When we returned home after the examination, there was a message from James on the answering machine. In a drunken-sounding voice, he was asking, "Have you seen Sophia?" I sighed deeply and called James. James, Sophia is here with me, I said firmly. Huh? Why is she there? James's voice sounded confused. Do you remember what happened last night? I asked sternly. After a moment of silence, James started making excuses. I was a bit drunk, but it wasn't anything serious. Not serious. My voice became harsh. Sophia is terrified. James fell silent. Then, with a sigh, he said, Mom, actually, there's a lot going on. He gradually began to talk. Stress at work, financial problems, and the presence of a new woman. As I listened to my son's words, anger and sadness welled up inside me. "James, you've been having an affair?" I asked, my voice tight with emotion. "I'm sorry, Mom." His voice became small. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. What would Frank have done if he were here? "James, come here right now. We need to talk," I said firmly. After hanging up the phone, I sat down on the sofa. How did my once adorable little boy end up like this? My heart ached as I thought about Sarah and Sophia, and James's future. A while later, the doorbell rang. It was James. When I opened the door, he stood there with his eyes cast down. "Come in," I said in a cold voice. Sitting James down in the living room, I began to speak quietly but with a firm attitude. "James, do you understand that what you've done is unforgivable?" He answered in a faint voice, still looking down. "I know, but at that time." "I don't want to hear excuses," I cut him off harshly. "You hurt your own daughter. Blaming it on alcohol doesn't make it any more excusable." James raised his face and looked at me with tearful eyes. "Mom, I really regret it. But at that time, with the stress from work and the debts." "Debts?" I raised my voice in surprise. "What do you mean?" James reluctantly opened up. He had become addicted to gambling and had accumulated a large debt. And to hide this debt, he had been borrowing money from his mistress. "You." I was at a loss for words. Anger and sadness welled up inside me. "Mom, I want to start over. I want to apologize to Sophia and Sarah. But I don't know how." I stood up and walked over to the window. As I gazed at the scenery outside, I imagined Frank's face. What would he do? I took a deep breath and turned to face James. "James, you've made a terrible mistake. But you're my son. And you're Sophia's father. That's why I can't give up on you easily." A glimmer of hope appeared in James's eyes. "But," I continued with a stern expression, "starting over requires a corresponding level of determination. First, you need to receive treatment for alcohol addiction. And counseling for gambling addiction too. We also need to make a plan to repay your debts." "I understand. I'll do anything," James nodded desperately. "And most importantly," I looked him straight in the eye, "you need to make amends to Sophia and Sarah. It will take a long time to regain their trust. Are you prepared for that?" James answered with a serious expression. "I am. No matter how long it takes, I'll win my family back." I let out a small sigh of relief. I'm not sure if this is true repentance or just temporary remorse. But I have no choice but to believe in my son and guide him. All right. The real trial starts now. I'll support you as much as I can. But as I said, Sophia and I will be living here for a while. Until I can confirm that you've really changed." James looked sad but nodded in understanding. "I understand. Mom, thank you. I promise I'll regain everyone's trust." After he left, I let out a deep sigh. I sincerely hoped this would be the first step towards family reconciliation. A few days after the conversation with James, an unexpected development occurred. The police contacted me with news that James had been arrested. It was revealed that he had been involved in illegal fundraising to cover his debts. When I heard this news, my heart was filled with complex emotions. My son's actions were unforgivable, but as a mother, I couldn't help but worry about his future. On the day Sarah was discharged from the hospital, we had a discussion at her house. Sarah, though using crutches, had an expression that conveyed a strong will. "Mother-in-law, thank you so much," Sarah grasped my hand tightly. "For Sophia, and for me." I smiled gently. "Of course, Sarah. You're my precious family." Just then, the doorbell rang. When I opened it, my daughter Linda was standing there. "Mom, I heard what happened." I came right away. Linda hugged me. Linda's presence cast a new light on this difficult situation. As a legal expert, she became a great help in supporting the family. "Sarah, Sophia, I'll do whatever I can to help," Linda said with determination. We discussed our plans moving forward. James's trial, Sophia's psychological care, and Sarah's return to work. Linda would provide legal advice, while I would offer daily support. "Mom, I'll come regularly too. I'll help look after Sophia and assist Sarah." Linda's words made me feel stronger. That night, as we were putting Sophia to bed, Sarah said in a small voice, "Mother-in-law, I don't know how to feel about James." I put my hand on Sarah's shoulder. "Time can solve some things. For now, let's focus on Sophia and yourself." Sarah nodded, tears in her eyes. At that moment, I felt anew the strength of family bonds. Even in difficult situations, I was filled with gratitude that we had relationships where we could support each other. A year has passed since then. James is serving his sentence in prison, but he's seriously working on treatment programs for alcohol and gambling addiction. His letters express remorse and thoughts of his family. Sarah has returned to work, and Sophia is enjoying school life. Thanks to psychological counseling, Sophia's smile is gradually returning. Linda and I have been taking turns staying at Sarah's house, helping with housework and childcare. This experience has deepened our family bonds even further. One evening, while we were having a barbecue in the backyard, Sophia suddenly hugged me and said, "Grandma, thank you." "What's this about, Sophia?" Surprised but pleased, I hugged my granddaughter back gently. "Because you're here, Mommy and I are happy," she said. Sophia's innocent smile made my eyes well up with tears. Sarah approached and said, "I can never thank you enough." Linda added, "Mom, you're our pride." At that moment, I felt a new mission. A role as someone who protects and guides the family. Frank may be gone, but there's still so much I can do. "Everyone, listen," I said to my family. "We'll face more challenges ahead. But I believe we can overcome them together." The whole family nodded, enveloped in a warm atmosphere. That night, I wrote in my diary, "Dear Frank, Our family is now on a new journey. I can feel you watching over us from heaven. I'll continue to do what I can for our family. Looking out the window, I saw a sky full of stars. Surely, Frank must be smiling among them. Tomorrow, another hope-filled day will begin. I took a deep breath and drifted off to sleep with a peaceful mind.